Hello Sioux Falls and welcome to Planning Preview for the month of September. My name is Jason Bieber with the Planning Office at the City of Sioux Falls, and joining me as always is Karla, one of our urban planners.
I'm back to talk all things September Planning Commission.
Well, that's great. Well, let's get right into it because we got a couple of big projects that we can talk a little bit about. Let's do two of these at the same time because they're kind of in a similar area out there in Foundation Park, way in the northwest part of the city. Looks like we've got two rezonings from Ag to I-2. Tell us a little bit about where this is and what they're looking to do up there.
So this is actually step 2 of the process. They just annexed in some of that land to fully become part of Foundation Park, that whole industrial area. And now they've identified some industrial needs out there, so they're going to change those zoning classifications to reflect as such.
And then this is in the north section, right, just north of the railroad tracks. So kind of what we say is like Amazon and FedEx are in the south portion. This is kind of up where CJ Foods is going in that area, correct?
Yep, more north, and then the Benson's is on the east, and then the other, the Walkers is on the west side.
Great, yep, just another area they're bringing in for that large industrial park. And then as part of that, I know we've got two preliminary subdivision plans that are going to, which kind of just talk about the preliminary lot and block layout for these subdivisions. So.
Yeah, it's a good location with the interstates, and it's got all the amenities that you need to do this industrial type of development. So should be a win for the neighborhood.
All right, so our next one here we got is, looks like the St. Francis House is expanding. I know I got to work on the rezoning for their large new building that's on the west side of the property, but now it looks like they're kind of finishing off that block. They purchased the 3 houses in the southeast corner and rezoning to the institutional district to build another portion of their program. But what are they looking to do there actually?
Just expanding some extra apartments into that area.
Yeah, that's just another great addition to that whole program. I know they get a lot of kudos. The St. Francis House does a really good job with their program over there, so that's great. Next, it looks like we got something that's going out of an institutional campus PUD district and going to a twin home duplex residential district. This looks like this must just be just east of Augie. Is that kind of correct?
Yep, so they've identified themselves as a campus, but they didn't need this lot, so they sold that off separately and are going to try and do a duplex here.
So then the applicant's kind of just doing traditional house or duplex he's going to put on there. Yeah.
Right.
Great. And then we've got, looks like another kind of rezoning from the old office district to the RD1 twin home duplex residential district. This looks like it's on 33rd Street, kind of maybe getting close to Western Avenue. Tell us a little bit about this one.
Yeah, so this has been zoned office, but it's been vacant, and the individual here just wants to market it as a single family house or maybe a duplex to see how that'll go.
Yeah, I know it's kind of been for lease or rent for quite a while. It doesn't seem like they're getting many takers. So it looks exactly like a house, so it should be pretty easy to kind of change it back into a duplex.
Right.
Yep. And then that kind of looks like all of the ones that we have this month. You know, a couple of big items, like I said, up in Foundation Park, but thanks for joining us this month.
Thank you.
And stay tuned, Sioux Falls. After the break, we will have Diane deKoeyer to talk about historic preservation and also all of our neighborhood associations within the city. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Brent and I'm a housing specialist with the City of Sioux Falls, and I'm here with Kelly, who is the property maintenance manager for code enforcement here in Sioux Falls. Kelly, we're looking at this window in the background here, and this family has decided to put in an egress window and finish a bedroom down here. Do they really need this type of a window?
Yes, absolutely. If you're going to have a habitable sleeping space in the basement, you need to have an egress window. It's got to be a 5 square foot opening. And that's for your safety in case of a fire or emergency. You need to get out, you can get out, or firemen or rescue personnel can get in to get you.
I see they have a metal window well and then a cover on that. Should they have a cover that's fastened down on an egress window?
No, the cover cannot be fastened down. You can have the cover, just not fastened down, something that's easily openable. And if it's more than 4 feet tall, it needs to have a ladder so somebody can climb out.
Right. If they didn't want metal, could they have a wood one or made out of rocks?
Yep, you could have a wood or a block egress window. I mean, the well is just to keep the dirt away and give you the area to get out of the window.
Thank you, Kelly. Well, if you're planning on having habitable space down in your basement and to keep your family safe, be sure to install a new egress window.
If you'd like to see if one of our city programs can help you out, call 367-8180 or check us out online at siouxfalls.org.
Welcome back to Planning Preview for the month of September. Joining me now is Diane deKoeyer, our neighborhood and preservation planner for the city of Sioux Falls. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I wanted to have you on the show because you've been working quite a bit in two separate kind of fields, but they're related very closely because you do a lot of historic preservation, and then also you're working very closely with our neighborhood associations. And yes. We just had National Night Out a couple of weeks ago where they kind of, all these neighborhood associations come together and do some fun activities. So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit, but first let's talk a little bit about historic districts, okay? Yes. Because I don't know if a lot of people know how many historic districts we have and maybe what are some of the requirements of them. So how many historic districts do we currently have in the city of Sioux Falls?
We have 5 residential districts: McKinnon, All Saints, Cathedral, Hayes, and Sherman. Okay. And then we have 2 commercial, which is downtown and the old courthouse and warehouse districts.
So really kind of the core area of the city is where they are.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming those have been historic districts for quite some time?
Yeah, I think the earliest is Cathedral, and that's about 50 years old since that one got started. But we have reviewed a couple other areas within the city that could become historic districts. We are looking to do an expansion of McKinnon Park. Okay. So rather than having it end on 4th Street, or 4th Avenue, excuse me,
okay.
On the east side, it'll go all the way over to 7th.
Kind of that.
And then, yeah, and then between the Boulevard, 21st, and then down to 26th. So it'll continue kind of the Baker's Edition.
Yeah.
So.
And then that'll kind of butt up to where on the east side of 7th is where Avera McKinnon's campus is. So kind of everything west of that all the way over to the park. And then what's the reasoning for that? Just a lot of those houses kind of contribute or similar to the McKinnon Park area?
Yeah, it's kind of strange that they weren't included to begin with because it is very similar. Maybe not as, grand as some of those that sit, directly across from the park. But a lot of the characteristics of the McKinnon Park District continues in that area, so it makes sense. And then we recently did some surveys for mid-century homes. So again, anything that's 50 years or older, so anything that was done in the 50s or 60s would qualify. So there's 2 possible historic districts that could be included over on that. And that's between like 33rd and 38th and Cliff and Phillips.
That could possibly do that. So let's say you kind of, like you talked about, you did kind of a survey. Is that kind of how you figure out if it's worth it?
Yeah, that's initially how you start. Yeah.
Yep. And then once you find the possibility, hey, this does warrant, or we could do a historic district, is that kind of when you have to start meeting with the neighbors? Do they have to sign off on it to go in historic district? Or
yeah, so the first thing we really need to do is a lot more education with some of the people, because they think it will restrict what they can do to their properties. Like, oh, you're going to tell us what color we can paint our homes, and of course that isn't something that the board weighs in on. What we're trying to do is really help to allow the consistency of the characteristic of that area. So anybody that's familiar with like a mid-century type home, it makes it difficult to do an addition to, but you can do that maybe on the back side where it's not seen from the front. Again, we don't look at the back side, so you can do whatever, but we just want the consistency to continue of that period.
And I think then maybe that's one of the great advantages, that a neighbor, or a property owner knows their neighbor can't just build some new modern thing right in front, or something that maybe is out of place with the existing neighborhood.
Right. Yeah. So you don't get something that's built that just, a lot of times people get upset with what their neighbors are doing. So this keeps kind of that consistency. Again, just that it'll be the same as it has been, and you can still make changes. You can change out windows, you can re-roof, you can paint, you can make all kinds of changes, but the board follows the Secretary of Interior standard. So whether it's for rehabilitation or new construction, like an addition, we just want it to be consistent with what's in the neighborhood.
So that kind of brings me to a question then. So you kind of talked a little bit of what kind of an improvement would require you to go in front of the board.
We just recently had somebody that wanted to take away some of the features on their front porch,
Okay.
and it had some really unique scrolling kind of lattice work, and then columns, the way they were situated on the porch, that they wanted to remove those. They thought it was too much. If you would strip away some of that character, then you're taking away what was original to the home and maybe that, gave it some of its charm. Then it just looks like anything else. And if you want something that looks new, then you don't want to be in one of the historic districts.
That's true. So if anybody that's in a current historic district has questions, like I know we have a pretty good map online that shows you if you're in a historic district, and I'm assuming gives you your contact info if they have any questions about any.
I get calls all the time, people just asking, can we do this? Can we do that? And a lot of times people think it means, what they want to change on the inside of their home. And we don't look at anything on the inside, and again, nothing on the back. It's just really street facing. So it's much less, and I would say probably less restrictive than a lot of people might think.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, some people, I think like you talked about, if I'm in a historic district, I can't do anything to my property. So
Yeah.
no, that's good to know. So let's transition a little bit from the historic districts to kind of neighborhood associations. I know that's a little bit maybe a newer of a project that you've been working on, started kind of through the Huther administration was really pushing some of those. And now I know you're working kind of with them. But how many neighborhood associations do we have within the city?
So we currently have 20, and I am not kidding that lately it seems like at least once a month I'm getting contacted from people that want to start a new neighborhood association. That's probably in just the past couple of years, I'd say we've taken on 6 or 7 new ones, which is great because that just means people are looking for more information and working with the city. So it's good information, good connection. And they want to have more of a voice with what's going on with the city, which is why they establish those associations.
Yeah, which is a great way then to kind of get to know your neighbors and get to know people within your neighborhood that maybe have all of similar common goals with what they want to see within their neighborhood.
Right, exactly. And, speaking of historic preservation, there is quite an overlap between our historic districts and our neighborhood associations. Again, a lot of them started within the core, and now they're really expanding beyond that. But it comes down to people want to know who their neighbors are. They want that sense of engagement. They also want that sense of knowing who you are so that if I'm having an issue, that I can contact my neighbors for help or to help look out for each other. And it's a good way to socialize. And I think with our National Night Out events, that's really helped to bring people together.
Yeah, and that's that great event. That's the first week of August every year that they do. And I know it's always the first Tuesday in August because the city council gets pushed because, that's what great program that a lot of them
Allow
go
them
with.
to attend.
And we get not only people from planning, but we have, parks, we have fire, we have police that all go out to those different neighborhood associations for National Night Out, and it's so cool to see.
Yeah, and National Night Out is really a police and fire event across the country. That is their way of getting to know who the people are in the community. And again, rather than waiting for an emergency or something negative to happen, it's their way of getting to know who those folks are. So we kind of tag on to that, get out there and meet with the residents. And our associations have just gone crazy with these events. I mean, it's kind of a block party. They have all kinds of games and food and vendors. And I mean, some of them are getting anywhere from 100 to 500 people showing up. So it's kind of exploded. And we do provide with our neighborhood grant project, we encourage people. So we provide like $500 to help them, with hiring vendors or even getting the permits they need for food trucks to attend. But it's, again, a great way for people to get to know each other and kind of bond.
Yeah, and I know with the 20 neighborhood associations, some are probably more active than others, but would you say all 20 of those are pretty active? And
I'd say, yeah. So with the 20 neighborhood associations, they're very active based on the email and the phone calls I get. But I also provide the same information to our watch groups, and watch groups are, again, kind of fall under PD. But that's my goal, is to always make sure that we're communicating with as many people as we can within the community. And they would have the same opportunity if they wanted to register with us. They can do that as well. And more information is available online for it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we've done, that we talked about earlier in this show with our rezonings and stuff, that if it's located within a neighborhood association, some of our software has given us the ability then just to actually send the president of the neighborhood association a letter too, even if they're not within the notification area. So then they can push that out to the rest of the neighbors within the neighborhood association to kind of get some comments.
That's exactly what they're great
Yep.
about. Most of these neighborhoods have Facebook pages, and that's a way for everybody to see what's going on if there's an issue or a concern within the neighborhood. So it's worked well.
So how many members would you say are throughout the city with the neighborhood associations? You have to tell me.
I did just a recent kind of a quick overview of number, and I would say of residents within just those 20 registered neighborhoods, there's probably over 12,000 people.
Jeez.
And that's what's been great too. It's also allowed our city councilors to get to know those neighborhood and the leadership within the neighborhoods much better. We recently started quarterly meetings, so that allows leadership to come together with various city staff and what's on our agenda to ask questions and distribute information to people out in their neighborhoods.
Yeah, I think that's been really good, those quarterly meetings. So then you do those in different neighborhoods, right?
We move around to different neighborhoods. They're at different locations. The last, and which is actually the first one that we had, was in Whittier, and they provided pizza at the event. And we probably had about 30 folks just within the neighborhoods. It might be a president and vice president or one or two others. But yeah, then we had about 6 different city staff to address different agenda items. So I would say it was pretty successful.
It's nice to be proactive instead of, like I said,
Yes.
you've created some of these, or these neighborhood associations have gotten a little bit more active when it's reactive, maybe to issue within the neighborhood or rezoning or something else that the city's doing. So it's nice to be proactive with those
Exactly,
things.
yeah.
And so if somebody wants to start a neighborhood association, what's the first step? Contacting you or?
Contact me. I'll typically start out with providing them information. There's a handbook. It's a little bit dated, should be updated, but it'll give them some basic information. And then what I'll do is kind of walk them through, like, what are the boundaries of the area you want to cover? What's your identity within that neighborhood? What are the assets that you have? What do you like about your neighborhood? Maybe what you don't like, so that we can identify some things to work on.
Is it pretty easy? That just gives me one more question. Is it pretty easy deciding the boundaries? Like, do you do them kind of by subdivision, or is it really more of who do you want within this neighborhood association?
We usually leave that up to the neighborhood leadership to define, because they know best, what area of people that they communicate with that would be interested. So a lot of them will get out and walk around and talk to their neighborhoods their neighbors to try to define what that area should be.
Well, that's awesome. Like I said, really good job. And I saw the amount of people at neighborhood or the National Night Out, which is great.
Yeah.
But the 20, and I know they're very active, which is awesome, getting those neighborhood associations. So keep up the good work with that. And hopefully your historic preservation new areas go well for you as well.
Yes.
Because that's a city council action, correct? That has to go through that? Or
It's also with the state and the National Park
great,
Service.
gotcha.
So there's quite a process and there's several steps involved with it. So we've hired the consultant. We've gone through that process. Now, like with the McKinnon Park expansion, that's kind of in the state, in their hands to go ahead and see if we would qualify to expand that district. So.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks a lot for joining us this month.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thanks for joining us, Sioux Falls, for planning preview for the month of September. As always, our meeting is on the first Wednesday of the month, which is September 3rd at 6 o'clock at the Carnegie Town Hall. We do allow public input on any of the agenda items that we covered earlier in the show. And we also do have that 5-minute comment period at the end of the agenda to talk anything planning related. So thanks, Sioux Falls, and have a great day.